A narcissist gay man who doesn't believe he's gay, very dangerous, intense, energetic, emotionally powerful, confrontational yet redemptive, empowering the listener. Introduction. You want the truth. Some people hide behind lies so thick, they forget they're even lying. And when that person is a narcissist, especially a man who's attracted to men but denies it to himself and the world, that's not just confusion. That's a time bomb, not just for him, but for everyone he touches. Let's break down this dangerous storm before it destroys everything in its path. The war within oneself. Denial becomes a weapon. There's no greater battlefield than the mind of a man who refuses to face his truth. When a narcissist is also a gay man in denial, you are not dealing with someone simply confused. You're standing in the middle of a war zone. This is not a quiet inner struggle. It's a volcanic, festering, soul-tearing fight between who he is and who he pretends to be. And what makes it dangerous is that the explosion doesn't just damage him. It detonates everything and everyone around him. This man has locked a truth inside himself so deeply that even he starts believing the lie. He wears the mask with such intensity, such consistency, that it becomes indistinguishable from his face. And when you step into his life, whether as a partner, friend, or family member, you are unknowingly stepping onto a landmine. He doesn't just deny what he is, he weaponizes that denial. See, when most people are hurting inside, they go inward, they cry, they journal, they heal, but not this man. No, the narcissistic man in sexual denial doesn't go inward, he strikes outward. He targets the people who make him feel vulnerable. Why? Because your love becomes a mirror, and mirrors are dangerous to someone who's terrified of his own reflection. You might think you're helping. You might think your unconditional support is healing him, but it's not, because when you pour truth into someone living in denial, it doesn't water a seed, it drowns them. It threatens the fortress they've built brick by brick to protect themselves from their own identity. And the deeper the denial, the more violently they defend it. He will say things that confuse you. He'll compliment you, then belittle you in the next breath. He'll draw you close, then shove you away. He'll flirt with honesty, but sprint back to the lie before you can catch it. That's the mind game. That's the spiritual whiplash. And it's not because you're broken. It's because he is battling a truth so raw it terrifies him. Inside this man is a screaming child who learned early on that his feelings made him unsafe. Maybe he was raised in a culture, a religion, or a family that said, "Real men don't feel that." Maybe he was told that to be attracted to the same sex meant being rejected by everything he loved. So he made a choice, not a conscious one, but a survival one. He buried himself alive, and now, decades later, you're wondering why this man can't give you real love, why he sabotages every deep connection, why he resents you the moment you try to pull the mask away. It's because every genuine moment with you threatens the story he's built his life on, and he would rather destroy the relationship than destroy the lie. You're not in a relationship with a whole man. You're in a relationship with a hostage situation. His truth is in chains. His emotions are handcuffed. And every time you try to unlock the truth, he screams, not because he hates you, but because you're opening a door he nailed shut long ago. He's not ready to face what's behind it. He may never be, and let's be real, this is not about sexuality alone. It's about integrity. It's about a person so disconnected from his core that he's created a shell, hard, cold, and impenetrable. And that shell is where his narcissism festers. He doesn't just not know who he is. He punishes those who remind him. You'll find yourself constantly apologizing, constantly explaining, constantly justifying why you feel the way you do. You'll feel like you're the unstable one. You'll second guess your truth, your worth, your intuition, and that's the trap. He has to make you question yourself so he doesn't have to question himself. The more you try to love him, the more dangerous he becomes, because your love isn't feeding his lie, it's threatening to reveal it, And narcissists don't want real love, they want admiration, they want control. They want to be seen as gods, not as vulnerable humans fighting secret battles. This man will use charm as a weapon. He will use intimacy as manipulation. He will keep you in the relationship just long enough to ensure you don't leave, then blame you for staying. It's psychological warfare disguised as romance, and it always ends in you feeling drained, confused, and hollow. But here's the truth. He's not the villain because he's gay. He's the villain because he refuses to own any part of who he is. He punishes authenticity, he worships image, and he's willing to destroy anyone who makes him feel exposed. His war is not just with himself anymore, it's now with you. So when you find yourself feeling like you're losing your mind, losing your power, losing your joy, it's not an accident. It's a result. The result of being caught in the emotional blast radius of a man who would rather go blind than look in the mirror. You can't love someone into healing if they are committed to hiding. And you cannot win a war that isn't yours to fight. The only way to survive is to leave the battlefield and reclaim your peace. Because if you stay too long, the war that's destroying him will destroy you too. Why you will always be the villain in his story. You thought love could heal him. You believed truth could set him free. But in the mind of a narcissist living in denial, your truth is a threat, your love is a mirror, and your presence is a ticking clock that reminds him the lie can't last forever. So what does he do? He rewrites the story, and in every version you become the villain. Not because you are one, but because he needs you to be. The moment you start seeing through the cracks in his persona, the narrative begins to shift. Where once you were the savior, now you're the snake. Where once you were the dream, now you're the danger. Why? Because a narcissist who is also suppressing his sexual truth doesn't just fear being outed. He fears being exposed emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically. And you represent the exposure. At first he may have idealized you, put you on a pedestal so high you felt like the chosen one. That wasn't love, it was strategy. Because the higher he lifts you, the farther he can drop you when the time comes. And it always comes. The moment you stop playing along, stop nodding in agreement, stop suppressing your instincts for his comfort, you become the problem. He won't come out and say it directly. No, he'll do it with subtle sabotage. He'll joke about your insecurities. He'll gaslight your concerns. He'll shift blame so smoothly you won't even notice yourself. Worth eroding. Until one day you wake up feeling like the antagonist in a movie you never auditioned for. And the cruelest part, he'll convince others of it too. The narcissistic gay man who doesn't believe he's gay will weaponize every cultural and emotional tool available to him. He'll use religion, family pressure, societal norms, anything that makes you seem like the one leading him astray. He needs to keep up the illusion, and for that illusion to work, there must be a scapegoat. You become the price he's willing to pay to protect his mask. He won't remember your sacrifices. He won't recount the times you stood by him in confusion, in silence, in fear. He won't tell the story of how you were the only one who saw him fully. He'll delete that chapter from the book of his life, and in its place he'll write a fantasy where you were manipulative, you were unstable, you were demanding too much. And here's the psychological trick. He'll project so fiercely you'll start to question if he's right. You'll look in the mirror and see his version of you, the nag, the drama queen, the abuser, and while you're busy defending yourself, he's reinforcing his narrative to everyone else. You're too tired to fight. He knows that. That's the plan. You'll find yourself arguing over things that never happened, apologizing for things you never did. That's the power of projection. He's not seeing you. He's seeing the parts of himself he can't stand. The fear, the desire, the confusion, the shame, and he can't kill those feelings, so he attacks the one person who reflects them, you. When you show empathy, he calls you weak. When you speak truth, he calls you cruel. When you express pain, he accuses you of being too emotional. Every strength becomes a flaw. Every act of vulnerability becomes ammunition, and the more you try to reason with him, the more he twists your words to fit his broken lens. And here's the heartbreaking truth. In his eyes, you were never a real person. You were a role, a mask, a means to maintain his illusion. Once you stopped serving that purpose, he didn't just devalue you, he rebranded you. He had to, because admitting who you really are would mean confronting who he really is, and he's not ready to do that. This isn't a story about love. It's a story about survival, about how far someone will go to preserve a false identity. And when you become a threat to that identity, he will burn down the relationship, salt the earth, and tell the world you lit the match. You cannot rewrite his narrative. You cannot fix the way he sees you. What you can do is reclaim your own story, rewrite your own script, step out of his fiction and into your own truth. Because the longer you stay in his version of reality, the more you'll lose your own. Stop defending yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. Stop trying to prove your worth to someone who profits from denying it. You're not the villain, you never were. But as long as you play a part in his performance, you'll never be the hero of your own life. This man will cry wolf, but you're not the predator. He'll scream betrayal, but you're not the traitor. He'll claim abandonment, but he's the one who emotionally evacuated long ago. So don't wait for him to see the truth. Don't wait for the apology, the reckoning, the redemption. You may never get it, because a narcissist in denial doesn't seek healing. He seeks protection, not from others, but from the mirror. And you, my friend, are the mirror that shattered the illusion. That doesn't make you the villain. That makes you free. The dangerous cocktail: shame, control, and sexual confusion. Imagine mixing three of the most volatile substances in the human soul: shame, control, and sexual confusion. Now set it on fire with narcissism. That's not just unstable, that's explosive. When you meet a narcissistic gay man who refuses to admit he's gay, you are not stepping into an ordinary relationship. You are stepping into a ticking time bomb. One that's been constructed out of deep-seated shame, desperate need for control, and a hurricane of internal confusion that he's too terrified to face. Shame is where it starts, and not the kind that makes you reflect or change. I'm talking about toxic shame, the kind that gets buried in childhood, reinforced by culture, and hidden behind decades of silence. This shame tells him, if they knew who you really are, they'd leave you, they'd hate you, you'd be alone. So he builds a mask. And then he builds a life around protecting that mask at all costs. Control becomes the armor he wears, because in his mind, vulnerability equals exposure, and exposure equals death. He's not just controlling you, he's controlling the narrative, the relationship, the emotional temperature of the room. He has to, because if he ever lets go, even for a moment, the truth might slip out. And to him, the truth is poison. But here's the twist: that control isn't neat. It's not logical. It's not even consistent, because under that armor is sexual confusion that hasn't been processed, understood, or accepted. One day he might crave intimacy with you, the next he's repulsed by it. One moment he's affectionate, the next he's cold and cruel. It's emotional whiplash, and you're the one getting snapped in half. You think you can help. You think your patience will calm the storm, but the more stable you are, the more unstable he becomes. Why? Because your peace threatens the chaos he's learned to live in. Your clarity shines a light on the shadows he's tried to bury. And instead of coming into the light, he'll try to drag you into the dark. He'll start creating problems where there are none, picking fights out of thin air, questioning your motives, your tone, your intentions. Not because he wants answers, but because he needs chaos to feel in control. Confusion is his playground. Doubt is his comfort zone. And if you dare to bring truth to the table, he'll flip it over and accuse you of being the unstable one. This isn't just gaslighting, it's emotional terrorism. He's not trying to make you see things his way. He's trying to make you forget what's real entirely. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to trust your own voice. Your inner compass gets scrambled. You stop asking, is he okay? And start asking, am I crazy? And let's not forget how his shame affects your intimacy. He might engage physically but disconnect emotionally. He might seek validation through sex but recoil from real connection. You're left feeling used, discarded, and deeply confused. You think, if he's attracted to me, why does he seem so distant? Because it's not about you. It never was. It's about him rejecting the part of himself he sees reflected in your eyes. And this is the paradox that will rip your soul apart. He wants you, but he resents you. He needs you, but he punishes you. You are both his fantasy and his fear, because loving you brings him closer to a truth he's not ready to accept. And so he lashes out, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're doing everything right. You'll try to walk on eggshells. You'll try to say the right thing, do the right thing, be the right person. But no matter what you do, it will never be enough. Not because you aren't enough, but because he can't receive anything real while living inside a lie. You're pouring love into a black hole, and it's swallowing you whole. And here's where it gets dangerous. Not just emotionally, but psychologically. You start adapting to the abuse. You normalize the instability. You tell yourself, this is just what love looks like when someone's healing. No, this isn't healing. This is harm disguised as hurt feelings. This is trauma playing dress up as romance. You have to wake up. You have to see that the cocktail he's drinking is slowly poisoning you too. Because when shame, control, and sexual confusion combine, the narcissist doesn't just suffer. He turns everyone around him into collateral damage. And unless you get out, you'll lose your identity trying to fix his. You're not a therapist. You're not his rescuer, and you sure as hell are not his excuse to stay in the closet. You are a full human being who deserves a relationship built on truth, not tension. Love should challenge you, yes, but it should never confuse you. It should never hurt this much. It should never strip you of your power. The only way to win this game is to stop playing it, to recognize that the chaos isn't accidental, it's engineered. That every time you try to bring clarity, he adds another layer of confusion. And the more you stay, the more you lose. You've tasted the truth now. You've seen behind the mask, and once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. So ask yourself, are you willing to keep sacrificing your peace for someone else's denial? Or are you ready to break free from the cocktail that's been draining you, drop by drop? Because real love doesn't hide. Real love doesn't confuse, and real love doesn't control. It liberates. And if what you're in doesn't feel like freedom, it's time to walk away from the bottle and breathe again. The mind games he plays to avoid himself, you're not fighting for love anymore. You're fighting against illusion, and the most dangerous part, he's not just deceiving you. He's deceiving himself. The narcissistic gay man who refuses to accept he's gay isn't simply confused. He's a master manipulator, playing psychological chess with everyone around him. But the opponent he's really avoiding is himself, and to keep that internal war buried, he plays mind games so twisted they'll make you question your own reality. This man has spent years perfecting his mask, not just to fool others, but to keep his own demons locked away. He lives in denial, but that denial needs constant maintenance. So how does he maintain it with manipulation so smooth, so convincing, even you? A loving, intelligent, intuitive soul. Start to feel like you're the problem. That's not accidental. That's the game. Let's start with the blame. Shifting. Every disagreement, every issue, every bump in the road somehow becomes your fault. You speak your truth. He says you're attacking him. You ask for clarity. He says you're controlling. You express hurt. He says you're too sensitive. These aren't random reactions. These are moves on a board. Strategic, calculated, designed to keep you off balance and him in control. Then comes the projection. He can't admit he's gay, so he accuses you of being confused. He can't admit he's emotionally unavailable, so he calls you distant. He can't face his guilt, so he paints you as the betrayer. Every flaw he refuses to confront, he throws at you like a grenade, and then watches you scramble to defend yourself from his own reflection. And just when you think you've got a handle on what's happening, when you dare to call out the pattern, he shifts again. He becomes the victim, the poor, misunderstood soul who just doesn't know what he wants. He cries in your arms, he tells you he's broken, he begs you not to leave, and for a moment you see the little boy behind the narcissist, the one who never got to feel safe, who never got to be honest. Your heart cracks open, and you stay, but the moment he senses you've softened, the switch flips. Back comes the coldness, the manipulation, the distance. It's not love, it's a trap. He doesn't want healing, he wants control. And he's using your compassion as a leash. Every time you get close to freeing yourself, he reels you back in, not with love, but with guilt. He knows exactly how to play the gray zone. Not fully committed, not fully gone. Just enough affection to keep you hooked. Just enough silence to keep you anxious. This isn't indecision, it's strategy. Because as long as you're confused, he's safe. As long as you're busy analyzing his behavior, you won't notice your own identity slowly slipping away. He'll rewrite history to suit his needs. Conversations will be edited, timelines rearranged, facts twisted until you start wondering if you remember anything clearly at all. This is not forgetfulness. It's a psychological weapon. Narcissists in denial manipulate memory itself, not just to protect their false self, but to destroy your confidence in your own mind. He'll play comparison games too. Suddenly you're not doing enough. Not loving right, not as understanding as others. He'll hint that someone else made him feel more like himself, not because they did, but because he needs you insecure, he needs you chasing, because if you're chasing him, you're not chasing the truth. And the truth is, he's at war with himself. He looks in the mirror and sees a stranger. He desires freedom but fears what it will cost, so he creates this emotional labyrinth and throws you into the center of it. Not to love you, but to lose himself in you, and when you can't solve it, when you break down from the confusion, he says, "See, you're unstable, you're the problem. It's insanity by design, you are not broken. You are not crazy, you are being played. You are being used as a pawn in a game that was never about you. And the longer you stay, the more you internalize his madness. The more you forget who you were before you stepped into this emotional maze." He's not just running from his sexuality. He's running from the pain, the trauma, the self-loathing that comes with it. But instead of facing it, he projects it onto you. And that's the part that hurts the most. Because you would have stayed, you would have fought for him, you would have held his truth with love, but he didn't want that. He wanted escape. You need to wake up. You need to realize that love should not feel like manipulation. That truth should not feel like a crime. That partnership should not feel like a psychological experiment. This is not love. This is a power game dressed in passion, and you've been trapped in it for too long. The greatest betrayal is not that he lied to you. It's that he used your love as a shield from himself. But you are not his armor. You are not his excuse. You are a warrior who deserves someone ready to fight alongside you, not against you. And if you keep playing his mind games, you'll never win. Because the rules are always changing, and the goal is always moving. The only winning move is to stop playing, to walk away from the board, to reclaim your mind, your heart, your spirit. You can't save someone who's committed to staying lost, but you can save yourself. And that, my friend, is not a game. That's a revolution. When denial turns violent, the rage behind the mask, there's a storm building. Not outside, not in the world, but behind his eyes. It's quiet at first, almost invisible. He smiles, he laughs, he charms, but deep inside him, denial is metastasizing like a disease. And when the truth claws too close to the surface, when the mask starts to slip, the narcissistic gay man who refuses to face his identity doesn't just collapse. He explodes. He burns everything in sight. That's when denial turns violent. That's when the mask becomes a weapon. You see, he's been running from himself for years, hiding behind fake relationships, surface-level connections, inflated egos, and fabricated narratives. And the more he hides, the more pressure builds beneath the surface. Every compliment that threatens to feel real, every moment of intimacy that flirts with truth, every person who sees behind the curtain, they all become threats. And what do you think a threatened narcissist does? He attacks, not always physically, but make no mistake, emotional violence cuts just as deep. He will belittle, he will mock, he will humiliate, he'll take your softest truths and weaponize them. You'll open your heart and he'll crush it, not because he hates you, but because your honesty terrifies him. Your courage to be authentic exposes his cowardice to remain in hiding. That's why he rages. That's why he punishes, and it doesn't stop there. When you finally try to hold him accountable, when you speak your truth with calm clarity, he'll twist it into a betrayal. You don't understand me. You're judging me. You're toxic. He has to flip the narrative. Because if he ever lets it be about his actions, if he ever admits you're right, he'll have to face the one thing he's never been willing to confront, himself. So he attacks, maybe not with fists, but with silence. With gaslighting, with psychological abandonment, he'll withdraw affection like a weapon. He'll give you the cold shoulder for hours, days, just long enough to make you question your worth. This is how he controls you. He doesn't need to raise his voice. All he has to do is make you feel invisible, but sometimes the rage doesn't hide. Sometimes it breaks through the cracks and pours out full force. He'll scream. He'll curse. He'll break things, slam doors, threaten to leave. And not because you did something wrong, but because the lie he's living is starting to collapse under its own weight. And you, simply by existing in truth, are pushing it to implode. You'll see it in his eyes, that flicker of panic when the facade starts slipping. That's not just anger, that's fear. Fear of being found out, fear of being rejected, fear of being truly known. He lashes out to protect the identity he's constructed, even though it's the very thing that's destroying him. And if you're caught in the blast zone, he won't care how much it hurts you, because right now he's in survival mode. He will cut deep, say things he knows will leave scars, not because he's heartless, but because he's desperate, and desperation turns shame into cruelty. He can't hurt the world that rejected him, so he hurts the person closest to him, you. Because you're within reach, because you're real, because you reflect back to him the very truth he's been trying to annihilate. And what's worse, he'll apologize afterward, maybe with tears, maybe with gifts. He'll beg for forgiveness, swear it won't happen again, and for a moment you'll believe him, because you love him, because you see his wounds. But those apologies, they're not transformation. They're temporary sedatives. The cycle will repeat. It always does, because the problem isn't the behavior, it's the denial. Denial is a dangerous thing. It's not passive, it's not quiet, it's aggressive, it's violent. It will lie, manipulate, threaten, and destroy everything in its path to protect the false self. And the deeper the shame, the louder the rage. You think he's angry at you, he's not. He's angry at himself, at his past, at his powerlessness, but you're the outlet, you're the target, you're the casualty. You cannot fix this with love. You cannot fix this with patience. You cannot fix this by sacrificing yourself, because the more you give, the more he'll take. And eventually, you won't just lose the relationship. You'll lose you, your joy, your peace, your voice, your power. And for what? A man who's at war with his own truth. You need to understand this. When someone lives in denial, they don't just reject facts. They reject reality. And if you stay connected to them long enough, they will try to pull you into that false reality, where pain is love, where fear is loyalty, where silence is communication. That's not love. That's emotional imprisonment. If he's not willing to face his truth, he is not ready to love anyone. Period. You don't owe him your destruction. You don't owe him your silence, and you sure as hell don't owe him your trauma. You owe yourself safety. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself the right to walk away from anyone who turns their shame into your suffering. This isn't about rejecting someone for being gay. This is about holding someone accountable for using denial as a weapon, for hiding behind confusion while causing devastation, for turning their internal war into a battlefield you didn't ask to fight on. And if you've been bleeding emotionally, mentally, spiritually, it's time to step off that battlefield. You didn't cause the mask, you didn't create the rage, but you do have the power to end the cycle, and you do it by choosing truth over illusion, clarity over chaos, self, love over self, destruction. When his denial turns violent, don't shrink. Don't beg, don't try to explain your worth. Just walk away, not because you're weak, but because you are finally done playing the victim in someone else's war. Let the mask fall, and walk into your freedom. You've heard the warnings. You've seen the patterns. You've felt the weight of loving someone who doesn't love himself. The narcissistic gay man who refuses to admit his truth isn't just confused. He's dangerous, not because of his identity, but because of his denial. And when denial meets narcissism, it becomes a wrecking ball, smashing hearts, tearing souls, draining every ounce of love, energy, and light from anyone who dares to get too close. You thought your love could save him. You thought your compassion could awaken him. You thought your presence could give him the courage to face who he is. But what you've learned, the hard way, is that you cannot force freedom on someone who clings to the prison of their false identity. You cannot pour light into a soul that thrives in the shadows. You cannot build a future with someone who is hell, bent on running from the present. He doesn't just reject his sexuality. He rejects truth. He doesn't just hide from society. He hides from himself, and anyone who gets close becomes collateral damage. Your empathy becomes a weapon in his hands. Your love becomes the stage he performs his denial on. And your heart, your beautiful, open, ready to heal heart, it gets shattered. Not by accident, but by design, because the closer you get to the truth, the more violently he pushes you away. You've seen the secret patterns. The subtle deceptions, the mind games, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the projection, the rage, the shame, the seduction, the abandonment, the cycle, again and again and again. And every time you told yourself it would change. That he would change, that maybe if you just loved him harder, deeper, louder, better, he would finally see the truth. But here's the truth you need to see. You were never the problem. You were the mirror. And he broke you so he wouldn't have to see himself. You deserve more than this spiritual chaos. You deserve more than breadcrumbs of intimacy. You deserve more than being the emotional scapegoat for someone else's suppressed identity. You deserve a love that doesn't make you question your sanity, a love that holds you, heals you, honors you, a love that doesn't make you bleed for someone else's freedom. Because here's the reality, you're not here to fix him. You're here to free yourself, and that starts now. This is your moment. This is your awakening. This is where you stop waiting for him to change and start choosing you. You stop trying to unlock his heart and start protecting your own. You stop dancing with a mask and walk boldly into the light of what is real. If he won't face his truth, that's not your cross to carry. If he chooses denial, manipulation, emotional violence, that's not your home. If he burns you every time you get close, then it's time to rise from the ashes and never look back. You are not here to be his emotional crutch. You are not here to absorb his shame. You are not here to dim your light so he can feel less exposed. You are here to live, to thrive, to breathe freely, to love fully, and to be loved in return by someone who doesn't just want your heart, but respects your soul. So let the mask fall. Let the fantasy burn. Let the false love die and step into your freedom like the warrior you are. Because healing doesn't start with them changing. Healing starts with you leaving and never, ever looking back.